Ouais, un séviste.
The weather agency Météo-France has issued orange alerts for 9 departments, anticipating worsening conditions on Sunday, January 26, 2025. The departments under orange alert include Ille-et-Vilaine, Calvados, Mayenne, Seine-Maritime, Oise, Finistère, Côtes-d'Armor, Pyrénées-Atlantiques, and Hautes-Pyrénées. The agency has noted expectations of wind gusts reaching up to 130 kilometers per hour along the coasts, with inland areas potentially facing winds of 100 kilometers per hour. According to warnings from Météo-France, these strong winds could lead to severe impacts, particularly as they coincide with already saturated soil conditions due to recent precipitation. Weather conditions are forecasted to remain turbulent as Storm Herminia approaches, originally forming over the Atlantic near Ireland. While the storm passes, there is potential for significant rainfall, exacerbated by saturated ground conditions which could lead to flooding. There is speculation within Météo-France about issuing additional rain flood alerts for certain departments, emphasizing the severity of the situation. Due to the influence of the system, all eyes are particularly on Brittany, where the storm is expected to first strike. Local forecasts predict winds of up to 130 kilometers per hour on the coast. Meanwhile, regions within the Pyrenees are also bracing for storm conditions, with mountain areas potentially experiencing gusts of up to 120 kilometers per hour during the middle of the day. These alerts are coming on the heels of Storm Éowyn, which had already wreaked havoc across parts of Europe, resulting in tragic outcomes, including fatalities due to falling debris during severe storms. Reports indicated how Éowyn had caused various damages, and its residual effects merged with the impending arrival of Herminia, urging residents to be particularly cautious. Local authorities and experts have emphasized the importance of taking precautionary measures as the storms hit. Fabrice Leblond, director of the National Sea Rescue Service, SNSM, warned against reckless outdoor activities, reminding the public of the hazards posed by extreme weather. It is necessary to remain cautious and avoid unnecessary outings during such storms, he advised. The SNSM has advised mariners to be prudent and take necessary precautions as strong winds and waves amplify risks at sea. Several ships have strategically taken shelter along the Cotentin Peninsula to avoid the worst of the storm's impact, demonstrating proper safety practices as adverse weather conditions draw near. Expectations for the storm indicate it will lead to not only strong winds, but also heavy precipitation, which could provoke and intensify flooding risks. This potential flooding is set against the backdrop of high tidal conditions, as storms could trigger waves exceeding several meters. Despite the immediate threat from Storm Herminia, patterns over the next week showcase continuing instability across the weather systems affecting France. Additional upsurges of precipitation and strong winds are expected to persist, leading to potential flooding and continuous monitoring across various regions. With local municipalities and citizens advised to stay updated with the latest forecasts and alerts, everyone is encouraged to remain vigilant over the coming days as the storm progresses. Effective communication and preparedness could mitigate the impacts of Storm Herminia, whose rocky forecast presents significant challenges across the region. Stay tuned to your local weather reports and heed the guidance provided by emergency services as the situation develops. Good foreknowledge and readiness are key to ensuring safety and preparedness against nature's unpredictable storms. The Spanish weather service Agencia Estatal de Meteorología, EMET, named Storm Herminia on Friday. BBC Weather said the storm has now closed in on the UK. More than 4,500 properties are now without power in Devon and Cornwall. National Grid said 2,968 properties have been hit in Cornwall, with another 1,488 in Devon. National Rail said flooding between Par and Newquay has blocked the line and trains running between the two stations have been cancelled. A Ryanair flight that was expected to land at Cornwall Airport Newquay at 7:35 Greenwich Mean Time was diverted to London Gatwick. People have been urged to stay away from the coast due to crashing waves. Maggie Howell, from Falmouth Coastguard, said the conditions out at sea were really bad on Sunday morning. Forecasters said the storm brings a large risk of disruptive weather, especially across the southern half of the UK, which largely escaped Éowyn. Southwestern areas certainly bearing the brunt this time in terms of the most unsettled conditions, Met Office meteorologist Jonathan Vautry said. Heavy rain is expected to move in across England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and southern Scotland on Sunday, with between 10 and 20 millimeters, nearly an inch, of rain expected to fall. Another band of rain will sweep in across England and Wales overnight into Monday, increasing the risk of flooding as the ground is already saturated. Given recent heavy rain, this extra rainfall could lead to some local surface water and river flooding, Mr. Vautry said. Meanwhile, around 101,000 customers were still without power on Sunday, following the devastation caused to the electricity network by Éowyn. At the storm's height, nearly 1 million properties were without power across the British Isles, while many road and rail links were blocked. Most people who lost power during Storm Éowyn are expected to have their supply restored by Friday. The ESB network said the vast majority of customers might have their power restored by Friday, January 31st, while the remaining 100,000 people might have to wait until the following week. We anticipate that the vast majority of customers who lost power during Storm Éowyn have supply restored by Friday night, January 31st, an ESB spokesperson said. For the remaining customers, these will progressively have power restored over the course of the following week. This could be as many as 100,000 customers, they added. ESB repair crews endured gusting winds, freezing temperatures, and torrential rainfall to continue their marathon work to restore Ireland's power network after unprecedented damage was inflicted by the Stingjet impact of Storm Éowyn. Over 768,000 homes, businesses, and farms lost power as Storm Éowyn felled over 1,000 trees last Friday and caused the greatest damage in history to Ireland's power grid. In some areas, several kilometers of power lines were left destroyed by Storm Éowyn's winds, which reached a peak of 183 kilometers per hour off Galway, the highest recorded gusts in history. Meanwhile, cleanup and recovery efforts after Storm Éowyn will continue today and into the early part of the week, with hundreds of thousands of people still without basic utilities. This morning, there are still approximately 330,000 homes, farms, and businesses with no power across the country, ahead of forecasts of more unpleasant weather which may hamper recovery efforts in some parts of the country today. ESB has restored power to 438,000 customers who were affected by the storm. The company said Storm Éowyn was the worst storm experienced by ESC networks, both in terms of customers losing supply and the scale of damage across the network, with record 768,000 losing supply on Friday.
Getting it now.
Although Storm Herminia has been named, Met Éowyn meteorologist Rebecca Cantwell said Ireland is not going to see a storm today. It's just a low-pressure system. It has been named for conditions that are going to affect Spain and North Portugal, but here in Ireland, we're just experiencing the low-pressure system, which is going to bring yellow-level wind and rain to the country, she told the Irish Independent. It's not going to be stormy weather. It's just going to be wet and windy. Because of Storm Éowyn, there has been so much damage that we're going to see more impacts in this yellow than we normally would in another yellow wind warning. Yellow wind warnings are only warnings for not unusual weather that just causes localized danger, but, I suppose, because of the impacts that have already been, we can experience a bit more with these yellow level winds, she added. Water has also been an issue for many homes since Storm Éowyn made landfall on Thursday night, with 109,000 people still without water as of lunchtime today.
Sorry.
Ille-et-Vilaine said power outages were having an impact on water supplies. Generators are today being used to support schemes supplying about 112,000 people with water. The company said it was concerned that another 126,000 people were at risk of service disruption because power had yet to be restored in their areas. The impacts are being felt nationwide, while the worst affected areas are Galway, Mayo, Clare, Cavan, Monaghan, Westmeath, Donegal, and Longford. Head of Water Operations at Ille-et-Vilaine, Margaret Attridge, said, "Our crews are on the ground in all impacted areas working to restore water service as quickly as possible, but given the extent of the damage to the power network, it may take some time before full service is restored everywhere." The National Emergency Coordination Group, NECG, said that the unprecedented devastation wreaked by Storm Éowyn has meant a huge coordinated effort was underway to get vital resources to areas where they are needed most. Met Éireann has issued yellow weather warnings for which could challenge some of this work. Due to strong and gusty winds, yellow wind warnings were issued for Munster until 12 p.m. today, and for Carlow, Dublin, Kilkenny, Wexford, Wicklow, and Galway, running until 3 p.m. today. Donegal, Leitrim, Mayo, Sligo, Louth and Meath are also covered by a separate yellow wind warning until 6 p.m. today. Another yellow wind warning will cover Cork, Kerry and Waterford from 11 p.m. tonight until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, with a separate yellow wind warning issued for Wexford from 2 a.m. until 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.